Welcome to Housing Developments,
I'm Jim Tobin.
and I'm Paul Lopez.
Good to see you.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Yeah. Once again, for our faithful listeners, we're not on video again,
That's right.
by virtue of travel schedules. But we're glad to be able to sit down and crank out another podcast. Still a lot going on week to week.
That's right. It's kind of like where in the world is Santiago? It's like where in the world is Jim Tobin? So
I'm like
you,
Dora the Explorer, right? I
that's,
need a,
that's
I need
right.
a map and a backpack. I'll be all set.
You're
Yeah.
in
So
Georgia
yeah,
right now?
just got in from the HBA of Georgia meeting down in Savannah. So down there with Austin Hackney and his gang. Saw Jerry Conter, our past chair,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
Jim Chapman, and a lot of the great guys that we see on a annual basis but a great chance to hang out with our members in Georgia. They're hanging in there. Georgia's a lot of growth, especially in Savannah, but a great few days down there. Just whether we're talking politics, economics, what's going on. Like I said, with the market in Georgia, was a good time.
That's nice. So before we begin, let's give a big
Yeah,
shout out to our sponsor, LG Pro Builder.
yeah. Let's build a good
Build,
life together.
let's
Yeah,
build a good
it's
life together. That's right.
happy to have
All
them
right.
on board as always. LG is a great partner of the podcast, so good to have them.
No, 100%. So I guess let's talk a little bit. Let's start with econ, and then we'll shift over to what we've been doing up on the hill. So
Yeah,
we just got today, as we're recording this, the new sales numbers for April. Not surprising, down 4.7% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 634,000 units.
yeah.
Given the way that the numbers are looking on the mortgage rates, not too surprising there, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, we've been singing this story for a year now, but we were obviously optimistic in the first quarter of the year, where rates really seemed to bounce back. But as our listeners know, it's rates are still hovering. Mortgage rates are still hovering right around 7%. The Fed is kind of off their, not off their game, I wouldn't say, but they are struggling. I think we talk about they've kind of plateaued on their fight
Yeah.
against inflation, and so we're not really looking at any rate cuts in the near future that would at least send a signal to the broader economy and the mortgage markets that relief is on its way from this persistent inflation. So yeah, not surprising that sales are suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk to the economists, they're saying that there could be a little bit of easing going on because we're seeing a little bit of price reduction. Like we talked about, the builders are doing whatever they can to spur sales. So that kind of weakness could bring down the mortgage rates a bit. But
Yep.
to your point, we're not talking about the cuts that we were initially thinking about that would actually drive those mortgage rates down considerably.
Yeah, Rob Dietz, our chief economist, he's revised his even, and he was the most conservative of most outlets, who at some point they were thinking it'd be six cuts this year. He's now down to one cut. It's a quarter point or 25 basis points, and that's the last Fed meeting of the year in December. So yeah, really, this persistent inflation. We all know that over half of that inflation number is made up by shelter inflation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Rob's really revised him down. I think he was at two originally, and then he went up to three in optimism. Now he's back down to one, but not surprising. Again, there just hasn't been. We haven't really seen that. How do I say it? The economy's been more resilient. I
Mhm.
think that's the way to put it. And we're still stuck in this kind of 3.5% interest inflation rate.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a good news about this is the fact that there's still very little existing home supply.
Yeah.
I think right now it's hovering at like 3.5 months. Usually
Right.
it's closer to double than that.
Yep.
So the fact that that's so weak is keeping at least the builders busy in the fact that they can provide that supply that otherwise wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah, and that's the message coming out of Georgia and everywhere I go. But it's by all rights, everybody should be really pessimistic. 7% mortgage rates, but they're all busy. They're all continuing to build. They're facing the usual struggles, which is land availability and lot pricing. Transformers continue to be an issue, and I do a show of hands every time, and and half the room's got their hands up, and it's so there's still the persistent issues that are out there. Labor, of course, continues to be an issue, but yeah, right now new housing is the only game in town.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of new game in town, NHB and Wells Fargo launched a new index.
Oh yeah, do tell.
Yeah, this quarter we launched the Cost of Housing Index, which kind of talks about what housing affordability looks like across America. Not surprising, and this is what we've been preaching now for several years now. It's not great, right? So basically, what it reported was that 38% of a typical family's income now is needed to pay down, the mortgage and buy that medium price single family home.
Wow.
That's not great. People usually say it should be about a quarter, maybe
Right.
33% on the high end. So creeping up to that 38% is not great. And look, if you're, in a lower percentile of earners, the median was closer to 77% of your earnings goes to that same house.
Yeah,
So
and those numbers kind of bear out what we've been seeing in the rental market for now years, which is, so we call rent burden anybody paying over 30% of their income to rent. And that number, I think the last census number, the 22 census number, was 20 over 22 million Americans are rent burdened, again, paying over 30% of their income in rent. And over 12 million people, renters, 12 million renters are paying over 50%. So now we're starting to see, rental and ownership it's just getting farther and farther out of reach for everybody, especially, ownership. We talk all the time on the podcast about ownership and home ownership being the gateway to the middle class, the way to build equity, wealth, put your kids through school, take care of your elderly parents, things like that. It's getting harder and harder to attain housing, whether rental or owner occupied, in this environment.
yeah, and for those skeptics who think it's like, oh, well, yeah, but new homes cost more, blah, blah, blah. The same numbers show that existing, we're at 36%. So the delta there is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's just the overall, point that housing needs to come down.
Yeah.
And again, we sound like a broken record. We have to build our way out of this.
Build, baby, build, right? That's right.
Yeah, and it also helps if and we're talking about housing affordability here, it would help that if, Congress and the Biden administration would actually, do what they say,
Right.
Which has not been the case, which is why, we were up on Capitol Hill testifying, right? So,
Yeah.
Jim, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I want to shout out to Sean Woods, who is a builder and developer from Blue Springs, Missouri, the Kansas City area, the son of former NHB chairman Tom Woods, and Sean came in at Chairman Carl Harris's request to testify before the House Energy and Commerce Committee about energy policies burdening housing attainability and affordability. And it was a great panel. Sean did an excellent job. I want to shout out to Lake Colson and Heather Vorman, Susan Osmus and her team, who really prepped Sean for not only the statement that we gave, but also the questions that followed. It was a long hearing, and one of the longer ones I've seen in a while. A lot of members came through the committee to ask questions of Sean. Again, he did a great job, but the message was simple. That there are more and more regulations, whether it's natural gas bans, whether it's forcing FHA borrowers, if they're going to buy a new home, that they have to have a home that's built to the 2021 IECC Energy Code, even though 44 states in the country aren't anywhere near the 21 code. Sean testified that in his area, now Kansas City, they put in the 21 code, let's say about a year ago, with the idea that they're going to go ahead and get that Inflation Reduction Act money, which was that the Biden administration put out
Right.
to basically bribe localities and states to move up to the 21 code. And so Kansas City, we're going to be first. They went ahead and they did it. They're waiting to, they're getting ready to apply their money. Turns out that they basically crushed housing production in Kansas City. In fact, their permits went through the floor, something like, they only pulled like 4 permits in the last half of the year. The surrounding counties now, Sean testified, the surrounding counties around Kansas City that aren't on the 21 code, their permitting's up 120 something percent. In
Oh,
Kansas City proper, they're only up 22%. So you can see the disparity, and
right.
Sean will tell you in his area, it's going to add $30,000 to the cost of a new home in Kansas City to build to the 21 code. So, and so there was a lot of talk about our numbers and, in the HUD numbers that say it's only $7,000.
Right.
Nobody likes our numbers. Well, our numbers are real. I think the HUD numbers are bogus. I don't think they stand up to scrutiny, and I think they're way off. And I think Kansas City's proven to be this little test case about what overly burdensome code requirements do to housing affordability.
Yeah, because the numbers seem to be consistent wherever we paying our members. They're always in that 30,000 range. Could be 30, 31, as high as 37, but it's nowhere close to what the numbers that they were projecting in terms of 7,000
Yeah,
under.
I mean, the thing is, they think, oh, we're going to put in, some new higher R value insulation package, and that's all they think about is actually the product itself. But what Sean talked about was you have to redesign the roof trusses in Kansas City now to accommodate that newer insulation requirement, and you have to put in. Maybe you're building a 2x6 or 2x10 construction rather than 2x4 construction, or just the different pipes, the different mechanisms in the house that has to be built just to accommodate those new energy products or those more higher efficient energy products. That's where the real cost comes in. Redesigning and building the house with more materials in order to accommodate these higher energy factors. That's lost in this, and I believe that's why I think their estimates are so low. They don't factor in the lumber and shingles and all these things you're going to have to do to re-engineer a house to accommodate these energy requirements, and all for what a payback of 10 or 15 bucks a month. And of course the HUD study doesn't really talk about 7% interest rates. They're looking 4%. So I just their numbers are wrong, and I think that they're going to be surprised at how they really curb housing production in those areas if they
Yeah, it's
want
really
to use the
unfortunate.
21 code.
Okay, so let's keep this Tarantino thread going.
Yeah,
Weakening the housing affordability, testifying. This is
yep,
why we keep asking people, please, please, please come to LegCon
yeah,
in June. We need more of that testimony
yep,
in the faces of our leaders here in
yeah.
Washington. So please come and join us in June so that we can make a difference.
Yeah, June 12th, we're on pace to have, over 800 members here in town. It's one of our larger legislative conferences in a while. We're pacing ahead of last year. Three issues: one, energy codes. We just talked about that. And we're developing legislative strategies to address FHA's move to add $30,000 to the cost of a new home. But then we're also going to talk transformers. And then we're also going to talk workforce. Those are the big things facing our members right now. And, three simple messages. But would love to see you in Washington, D.C. on June 12th to talk to your lawmakers about the importance of fixing these things so that we can build housing more affordably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered it for this week, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I'll be in Coeur d'Alene next week. Visit our members at the Northern Idaho Association. So looking forward to seeing everybody out there. And you and I'll touch base and probably do another a road recording of our podcast. But let's give a shout out one more time to our great sponsor, LG Pro Builder.
That's right. Let's build a good life together.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
All
Well,
right,
until
then.
next time, I'm Jim Tobin.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
See you.
Bye.